Hello and welcome to the program. During the last episode, I made a reference about Berossus, referring to a deity known as Balus or the Lord, and also as Deus, as in Latin, meaning God, who brought forth hideous-looking life forms produced of a twofold principle. There were men appearing with 2 wings, some with 4, others having 2 faces, or having a body with 2 heads, the one of a man and the other of a woman. They were likewise seen having both male and female sexual attributes. Other human figures were also seen with legs and horns of goats, some having horses' hooves, others displaying limbs of a horse from behind, but in the front they were fashioned like man, resembling hypercentaurs. Bulls likewise bred there with heads of men, and dogs with 4-folded bodies and tails of fishes. In short, there were creatures with the limbs of every species of animals. All these were preserved in the temples of Balus in Babylon. These were depicted on the wall paintings and the carvings, but we can leave it aside for a little while for now. We will talk about that when a little appropriate time arrives. However, although we may take it as just another fable of the ancients, the storyline may be detailing many important truths. It is certainly possible that before resorting to the creation of a being in their own image, the Nephilim, for instance, like the other space people, could have attempted to come up with a manufactured servant by experimenting with other alternatives. In other words, the creation of a hybrid ape-man or animal. Some of these artificial creatures may have survived a while, but were certainly unable to reproduce. The legendary bull-man and lion-man, or sphinxes that adorn temple sites in the ancient Near East, may not have been just figments of an artist's imagination, but actual creatures that came out of the biological labs of the Nephilim or other starseeds. Something to think about. There were many unsuccessful experiments commemorated in art and by statues. We need to understand that these beings may have not been able to survive for very long. Nevertheless, such texts enable us, at least theoretically, to perceive that they may have just happened. Sumerian texts, too, speak of deformed humans, and they were created by Enki, they say, and the mother goddess Ninhursag, in the course of their efforts to fashion the perfect primitive worker. We need to understand also correctly that this primitive worker then, not necessarily today, is just the same. Many incarnations may have taken place through the eons of time, and their bodies have been perfected, and they, the gods, could enter into them to supervise a new race of humans, not as they were, but as they are. So let us go back in time once more. In one of the texts, we discover that Ninhursag had a specific task, and this was to bind upon the mixture of the mold of the gods. She was probably drunk and called over to Enki. How good and how bad is man's body? As my heart prompts me, I can make its fate good or bad. One might think it being very mischievous. According to this text, perhaps unavoidably as a part of the trial and the error process, Ninhursag may have produced a man who could not hold back his faces and a woman who could not bear children, probably a person who was neither male nor female. All in all, 6 deformed or deficient humanas were brought forth by Ninhursag. Remember, according to Sumerian texts, she was drunk, and Enki was held responsible for the imperfect creation of a man with diseased eyes, trembling hands, sick liver, and a failing heart, and the second one with sicknesses attended upon, old age, and so forth. At the end, the perfect man was achieved, the one Enki named Adama. The Bible uses the word Adam or Adam, and the human intellectuals called him Homo sapien or intelligent man. This being was so much similar to the gods that one text even went as far as to point out that the mother goddess gave her creature man a similar skin of a god. Thus he had a smooth, hairless body. This human was certainly very, very different from the hairy ape-like persons. With this final product, the Nephilim and some others were genetically compatible with the daughters of men, and they were able to marry them and have children by them, or even incarnate through them. However, as we are informed that such compatibility could only exist if man had developed from the same seed of life as the Nephilim. This is indeed what the ancient texts speak about. Man, as with the Mesopotamian concept in a biblical sense, was made of a mixture of a godly element, a god's blood and its essence or formula or code, and the clay of the earth, that is, materials and elements from earth. Indeed, the term Lulu, used for man, while conveying the sense of him being primitive, literally meant one who has been mixed. Within this context, primitive means just that, the one who has been mixed. According to the Sumerian and Mesopotamian texts, this being called upon to fashion a man, and the mother goddess washed her hands, pinched off clay, and mixed it well in the steppe. It is fascinating to take note of the sanitary precautions taken by the goddess. She washed her hands. Furthermore, we seem to meet a number of clinical measures and procedures in other creation texts as well. So, the use of earthly clay being mixed with the divine blood to create a prototype of man is firmly established within these texts. There is yet another text relating to how Enki was called upon to bring to pass some great work of wisdom, most definitely of scientific knowledge. It states also that Enki saw no great problem in doing the task of fashioning servants for the gods. It can be done, he announced. He then gave these instructions to the mother goddess. According to the text of the Sumerians and Mesopotamians, mix the clay from the basement of earth just above the Apsu and shape it into the form of a core. I shall provide good, knowing young gods who will bring that clay to the right condition. The second chapter of Genesis offers the following technical version, if you can call it technical. And Adonai Elohim fashioned the Adam of the clay of the soil, and he blew in his nostrils the breath of life, and Adam became a living soul. The Hebrew term commonly translated as soul is nephesh, that elusive spirit that animates a living creature and seemingly abandons it when it dies. In other words, it is removed from the coinciding clay body. By no coincidence, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, repeatedly exhorted against the shedding of human blood and or eating the animal blood, because in the blood is the nephesh, in Arabic, nefes. The biblical versions of the creation of man thus equate nefesh as being the spirit or the soul and the blood. The Old Testament offers another clue to the role of blood in man's creation. The term Adama, after which the name Adam was fashioned, meant not just any earth or soil, but specifically dark red soil, like the Akkadian parallel word Adamatu, meaning dark red earth. The Hebrew term Adama and the Hebrew name for the color red, Adam, stems from the words for blood, Adama and Dan. When the book of Genesis termed the being created by God, the Adam, it employed a favorite Sumerian linguistic play of double meanings. The Adam could mean the one of the earth, or earthling, or the one made of the dark red soil, and the one made of blood. The same relationship between the essential element of living earthly creatures and blood exists in Mesopotamian accounts of man's making, or creation, if you like. There was a hospital-like place where Ea and the mother goddess went to bring man forth, known as the House of Shimti. Many of the Earthian scholars would translate this as the house where fates are determined. But the term Shimti clearly stems from the Sumerian Shi-im-ti, which cerebrally means breath, wind, life, whereas Bit Shimti means literally the house where the wind of life is breathed in. They remain very identical to the biblical statements. The Akkadian word employed in Mesopotamia to translate the Sumerian She-im-ti was Na-peshtu, the exact parallel of the biblical term nefesh. And the nefesh or Na-peshtu was an elusive something in the blood. The Old Testament offers very weak clues regarding this one puzzle. Mesopotamian texts were quite explicit on this subject. Not only do they state that blood was required for the mixture of which man was fashioned, they specified that it had to be the blood of God, or the divine blood. When the gods decided to create men, shall we say, their leader announced, "Blood will I amass, bring bones into being," which suggests blood be taken from the specific god. Let primitives be fashioned after his pattern. Ea, the scientist, said, selecting the god. Out of his blood they fashioned mankind. Imposed on it the service, let free the gods. It was a work beyond comprehension. According to the tale, when gods as men, the gods then called the earth goddess, the mother goddess, Ninhursag, and asked her to perform the task, while the birth goddess fashioned offspring while the mother of gods is present. Let the birth goddess fashion a Lulu. Let the worker care the toil of the gods. Let her create a Lulu Amelu. Let him bear the yoke. In a parallel Old Babylonian text named The Creation of Man by the Mother Goddess, the gods call upon the midwife of the gods, the all-knowing Marmi, and tell her, "Thou art the mother womb, the one whom mankind can create. Create then Lulu, let him bear the yoke." A robot. A very intelligent one. We will come back and talk more of this and many other intriguing subjects. I thank you for having the time to listen with an open mind. Be at peace. I will be waiting for you by the next episode, right here. In the meantime, keep smiling and be happy. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.